Down to the wire, and with the delay 5BB, Llon from Korea is your CEO 2021 Blazblue Cross Tag Battle Grand Champion!
And hello again to Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Welcome to a very special bonus episode of the Crackin Atkins Podcast, the cap and all cap with no cap. What's up with this Crackin? My name is Crackin Atkins. I could barely contain my excitement. I have a very special guest for the last episode of the year. A bonus episode, and the guest here, I like it. Just so much excitement. It's Llon. New 13 from Korea, and we have translations here from BurnoutFighter as well. So thank you both for being here. I guess first and foremost, I just want to say congratulations, Llon, on your CEO 2021 victory, and thank you so much for taking the time to interview with me today.
예, 앨런님 최근 그 CEO 2021 불불 태그 대회에서 우승하신 거 축하드리고요. 이번 인터뷰에 응해주셔서 감사합니다.
정말 감사합니다. 오늘 잘 부탁드립니다.
Thank you very much, and I'm very pleased to be here.
Awesome. I'm happy to hear it. And a special thanks to you, BurnoutFighter. You know, I kind of just reached out to you in the messages, so I'm happy to have you here. I wanted this to be, I wanted Llon to feel comfortable. I also wanted this to be available for like English and Korean audiences if they're interested. So a big thank you to you as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I mean, I really like to support some of the Korean FGC players to reach out to the world, and this is a good opportunity. So thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Well, let's just dive into it. So I have a few topics written down here. The first thing I want to talk about is Llon's travel to Florida. So how he got to CEO 2021 in the first place. Because I mean, we live in a different world now. I know this wasn't Llon's first time traveling. But traveling in 2021 is just completely different than it used to be, let alone internationally. So I think it'd be interesting to just kind of get his perspective and kind of find out how challenging was it to actually get to Florida? Like, what was the process? Because I'm sure it was not easy.
앨런이 이제 그 CEO 대회를 참가하기 위해서 플로리다로 이제 항공권을 구매하시고 오셨잖아요. 근데 이제 이제 비행기로 이제 외국을 나간다는 것 자체가 컨셉트가 이제 전보다는 많이 다르게 팬데믹 이후에 좀 많이 어려워졌는데 이번에 또 이제 플로리다로 향하게 되는 그 과정에서 뭔가 좀 어렵거나 다른 점이 있었나요?
매우 어려웠긴 했죠. 저번 에보 때보다 한 두세 배는 어려웠던 것 같아요. 제가 일단 신분이 군인이라 가지고 일단은 병무청에다가 허가를 받고 게다가 거기서 또 백신으로도 허락을 받고 게다가 음성 증명서까지 포함해가지고 엄청난 시간을 걸린 다음에 겨우겨우 비행기 탈 수 있더라고요. 그래서 뭐라 해야 되지 이거를? 어쨌든 더 힘들었어요 그냥.
Yeah, so it was definitely extremely difficult in comparison to, say, when I visited North America for EVO. So some of the difficult processes this time around was that I'm technically still under the national military service. So I had to get an approval from the government department for that, for the allowance to travel overseas. Plus, of course, the vaccination process, plus the certificate that proves me that I'm fully vaccinated with no infections or anything. Yeah, and as well as just the timely process of the usual the airline ticket, as well as getting the dates right and everything. So the stars had to align for this time, but fortunately it worked around.
Nice. Okay. Well, I'm glad that those stars did align. You know, after the tournament, I did approach Llon, and I was trying my best to express my gratitude for him coming out in the first place. Because, like, just from stories that I've heard of people trying to travel internationally, I know that it's not easy. So I'm really glad that he basically went through all that effort and that it all kind of worked out. So, kind of speaking of his travel a bit more, so this was the crazy part. I think Llon arrived to CEO on Friday night, just like less than 24 hours before his pull, which I thought was kind of nuts given like the time change and everything. I want to know if he was able to adjust to the time change that quickly. Like, did he feel alert or like ready to play BBTAG that weekend? Any like jet lag or anything?
네, 론님이 이제 플로리다랑 대회장에 도착하셨을 때가 이제 그 현지 시간대로는 금요일 저녁이라고 확인을 했는데 그게 이제
네.
대회 예선전 시작하기에 24시간 내지 그 플레이를 해야 됐던 상황이었는데 그 짧은 시간에 시차정이라든지 또는 이제 블블 크로스태그를 할 준비가 그때는 충분히 되어 있으셨나요?
일단은 제가 시차 적응은 제가 솔직히 말하면 잘 못했고요. 원래 조금 훈련을 하려 했었는데 그게 잘 안 됐던 것 같아요. 그 대신 비행기 안에서 원래 불태그를 못 하잖아요. 원래 콘솔 같은 걸 못 들고 다니니까. 그래서 주로 그 불태그 대전 영상을 올려주는 미국의 사이트가 있거든요. 거기서 하나하나 찾아서 미국 사람들의 그 플레이 영상을 하나하나 찾아서 다운로드하고 그걸 그 비행기 시간이 12시간이었는데 그 떠다니는 시간이 12시간 동안 쭉 본 게 일단은 도움이 된 것 같긴 해요. 그렇게 해서 준비를 했었던 것 같아요.
Yeah, so I was definitely there in a hurry, and adjusting to the jet lag wasn't the easiest. And to be honest, I really didn't have enough time to adjust to the change of timeline. But yeah, like the flight was basically 12 hours in process, so it'd be very difficult to play the game or practice even since you cannot lug the entire console and set up onto an airplane to play on your seat, which would be impossible. So the preparation I did was I was able to get through some of the videos of the North American players just as a training data, and then I was able to download them on my device to watch some of the matches to see how I can prepare for the tournament, and that was pretty much the only training that I got during the flight.
Wow, that's it. Okay, so he actually downloaded some player match footage and had that as study material during the flight since he couldn't play. That is interesting. I'm curious. I'm going a little off here, but I would be curious about who were some of the players that he downloaded match footage of. Like which matches was he watching, if he remembers?
특별히 그 비행기 내에서 보셨던 그 경기 영상 중에서 뭐 어떤 선수라든가 어떤 캐릭터를 특정으로 연습하신 그런 게 있나요?
솔직히 말하면은 미국이 아다치나 유미라는 캐릭터들이 되게 강세라 가지고 실제로 그 위에 속해 있는 사람들이 많이 쓰거든요. 그래서 그걸 중심으로 봤고 그래서 아다치랑 유미의 대책이 많이 됐었던 것 같긴 한데 조금 아메리카에도 좀 예상을 못할 캐릭터들을 쓴 사람들이 꽤 있더라고요. 거기서 조금 쏘인 거는 아쉽다고는 생각해요. 조금 많이 적거든요.
Yeah, so to be honest, the the character composition, I would say, of Yumi and Adachi was a very say popular and strong meta shown in the North American region, in my perspective. So I had to go through some of the matchups that the players are fighting against that specific character composition. So I think that was one of the main kind of concerns that I had. I really didn't focus on a specific player, but it was more of searching through those characters in my download list.
Got it. And I'm actually so glad that he mentioned Yumi and Adachi. I have a couple of questions about that a bit later because I've watched some Korean BB Tag in my spare time, and they definitely have a very different play style as opposed to America. I'm glad to hear that he kind of notices as well that we're kind of formed around Yumi and Adachi. So I'll touch on that a bit later. That's good to know that that's exactly what he was looking for. But kind of like in a timeline order here. So we talked about the flight. But once Llon landed in Florida, I mean, he kind of got thrown straight into the water with some BBTAG. Not the tournament, but there was a West Coast versus East Coast 8v8 exhibition that Llon also played in. So I wanted to ask him about that. Did he feel any pressure playing in that exhibition? And also, was there a player that he was really impressed by during the exhibition, whether it was somebody that he played against or someone that he was watching?
그 대회장에 도착하신 후 곧이어 뭐 대회 경기는 아니었지만 그 이벤트 매치로 활대팔 쇼 매치가 있었는데 미국의 서부와 동부 선수들끼리 모여서 같이 쇼 매치를 했었는데 그 경기 중에 뭐 특별히 뭐 새로운 뭐 발견을 했다거나 뭐 긴장을 하셨다거나 뭐 압박감을 받으셨거나 그런 선수가 있었나요?
솔직히 주목하는 선수들이 일단은 되게 많았고, 실제로 비행기에서 조금 마킹을 해서 본 선수들도 꽤 있었는데, 일단 긴장은 많이 됐죠. 어쩔 수가 없이 그 8대8 모인 선수들이 완전 미국의 최정상들만 모인 거니까, 솔직히 말하면 내가 여기서 이길 수 있을까 하고 생각하긴 했는데, 어떻게든 이게 풀리긴 하더라고요. 이게 한국에서만 쓰이는 꽤 전법이라고 해야 되나? 미국에서는 별로 안 쓰이는 전법들이 꽤 있었는데, 사실 대회에서 사용하려 했었는데 여기서 쓴 거는 조금 아쉽긴 했는데, 어떻게든 풀었으니까 뭐 다행이라고 생각은 해요.
Yeah, so in the exhibition match, since I already kind of had the feeling that since these players are one of the best players in North America, and that was definitely enough pressure for me to be even near those players. And during the exhibition, I did realize some of the strategic differences that I would normally only use against the Korean players. And I wasn't really sure whether that was a strategy that I could actually use in North America because although we play the same game, some of the strategic differences could make a lot of difference. And some of that, I wanted to just keep it as a secret weapon during a tournament. But I somehow felt that much pressure that I needed to use that strategy during the exhibition, which kind of exposed some of my gameplay style that I was concerned for my later actual tournament matches. But it somehow played out, so I think it was okay. But during that time of that exhibition, there was definitely a lot of pressure because some of these players were in the list of some of my videos that I downloaded earlier.
Right, definitely. I mean, there was a lot of like NA's best players within that exhibition. I mean, on his side, he had some of West Coast finest with like Yo Fame Scrub and Monkey and Master Chief, but on the East Coast side, he played against a lot of people he played against a couple of people that he actually had to play in bracket, like Eon Crescent and YOGAMEWIZARD. But man, yeah, that's crazy to hear that he felt so under pressure that he like win his main squeeze for the exhibition, because like I definitely noticed it. But yeah, I mean, now that we talked about exhibition, let's kind of jump into the tournament itself. So yeah, I mean, like it was not only a win for Llon, but really stacked, like a lot of strong players that he had to fight in this path to victory. Like there was Fullman, Bojack, Eon Crescent, Raiden, YOGAMEWIZARD, Monkey 4012, and Zero Shadowbud for that grand finals. I just wanted to ask which matchups in the tournament did Llon find to be the toughest opponents?
그 대회 경기를 하면서 뭐 물론 이제 그 쇼매치에서도 추후에 그 대회에 만나게 될 선수들과도 많이 대전을 해보셨겠지만 특별히 이 선수한테는 굉장히 어려웠다라고 느낀 그런 선수가 있었나요?
이게 제 영어 발음이 맞을지는 모르겠는데, 요펩 스크럽이라는 따로 선수가 있어요. 라그나랑 루비를 주로 사용하는 선수인데, 이 선수한테만큼은 이상하게 전법이 안 통하거나 주로 돌진을 많이 당하더라고요. 뭐라 해야 되지? 처음에는 잘 당하다가 다음 날에 갑자기 전법에 대한 딱 연구를 딱 해온 느낌이 엄청 뭔가 눈에 띄더라고요. 되게 감동스럽긴 했고. 그 다음날에 한번 대전을 해봤더니 거의 2배 차이로 제가 져가지고 좀 갑자기 일어난 일이라 갖고 많이 놀랐던 선수긴 해요, 이거. 근데 안타깝게도 대회에서 만날 일이 없었네요.
Yeah, so one of the players that I had some experience against was named Yo Fev Scrub,
Yeah.
and he plays Ragnar and Ruby. So I did notice that some of my strategies didn't quite work out against him. He had a very distinct playstyle that I wouldn't say counter my style, but it was more of kind of felt like a giant wall where I couldn't really apply any of the rush downs or the pressure. I think, and then later I had a bit of an experience to play casuals, and I did lose by double score, so it was a quite surprising experience. Unfortunately, I didn't really get to meet him during tournament bracket, but it was a definitely eye-opening experience for me.
Yeah, YoFave Scrub is like definitely one of like the most prominent Ragnar players that I know. Like he is and it's funny how it just transcends mindsets of even Elon notices he has a very distinct style of the wall gameplay and also just the way that he constructs his offense. He's a very, very good player. So yeah, I'm happy to hear that that's the player that he chose to kind of highlight here. Also, he's from my region, so I take great pride in that.
Nice.
Yeah, but okay. So I want to cycle back to he brought up Yumi Adachi, and I find that so perfect because I have like multiple questions I want to ask about that. The set that it's the only set that he lost in the tournament against YOGAMEWIZARD, Yumi Adachi. I wanted to ask him about his thoughts on that match because he said that he, kind of prepared for that team specifically, but when he was faced against the tournament, he lost. So, what was his thoughts about that set against YOGAMEWIZARD?
이제 대회 때 이제 딱 한 번의 패배를 경험하셨는데 그게 이제 요게임 위자드 선수였는데 선수의 유미와 어대치로 구성된 팀이 굉장히 이제 강력한 인상을 남겨주었는데 이 팀 구성이 한국 선수들이 많이 뭐 사용하는 뭐 그런 경향이 있는지 또는 이 그 매치업에 대해서 어떻게 연습을 하셨나요?
사실 그 아다치 유미 팀에 대해서는 영상으로만 많이 봤어요. 사실 지금 한국은 원래부터 힙스터만 모여가지고 주로 약한 캐릭터들만 아니면은 조금 특이한 캐릭터들만 사용하는 유저들이 되게 많았고 일본만 해도 아다치 유미 팀 자체는 그냥 사장돼 버렸어요. 거의 메타가 힐다한테 먹히는 그런 메타가 돼버렸기 때문에 그래서 솔직히 말하면은 영상에만 지금 의지할 수밖에 없었어요. 근데 사실 저 아다치 유미 팀이란 게 영상으로만 대처되는 게 아닌 팀이라고 해갖고 조금 곤란하긴 했어요. 많이.
Yeah, so the team composition of Yumi and Adachi, for me personally, I only had to watch, past match footages in order to study the matchup. There was no real chance to actually play against this specific team composition. In Korea, for most fighting game communities within Korea, not just BBTAG, but there's a funny kind of a cultural movement happening where a lot of these Korean players like to become character specialists, or I just call them hipsters. They use very uncommon set of characters, not really high in the tier list, and just want to be shown as a specialist in that era. And even if I were to compare to Japan, Yumi and Adachi composition wasn't as popular, and they kind of faded away, without anyone noticing. And to go against my team composition, it's a very unique experience. And for me, as a short answer, I only was able to just train in my mind and watch videos. That was only my study material.
That is insane. Especially like Yumi Adachi in North America is definitely like a meta-defining team here. Like some here may even argue that it's one of like the best teams in the game, and like just the amount of offense that it like is able to implement, and just the some of like the inescapable situations and the pressure and everything. It's overwhelming. So like the fact that he's saying that like just through kind of like theory fighting and just watching footage and constructing the game plan, he was able to figure out a way to overcome it, especially not having any practice partners in Korea. I find that incredible. Okay. Well, with that, so we've talked about Yumi Adachi and like North American scene. He's mentioned a little bit about like the Korean scene and the way that they kind of choose their characters, which I think is hilarious. But who are like very popular characters in Korea? Is there like a very popular character in Korea, or is it more of like everyone is the hipster?
그렇다면 이제 한국 선수들은 약간 힙스터 경향이 있다고 하셨는데 그렇다고 모든 선수들이 다 다른 그 팀 구성을 하는지 아니면은 한국에서도 뭐 인기 있거나 유행하는 팀 구성이 있나요?
물론 아니다. 한국에서는 팀 전체가 하나의 팀 말고는 전부 다 다른 팀으로, 그러니까 유저들이 전부 다 다른 팀을 사용하기도 하고, 그 하나의 팀이란 게 아다치 나루카미라고 따로 조금 많이 이 불태그에서 굉장히 강한 팀이 있는데, 그 팀 말고는 전부 다 나눠져 있네요, 팀들이. 네.
Yeah, so Korea wouldn't really, in comparison, be the biggest in terms of player pool for BBTAG. And surprisingly, if I come to think of it, it seems like everyone definitely has their unique teams. So we don't really see much of a clash in terms of players using the same team over and over. But we do have kind of a recognition of a very strong team, which is Adachi and Narukami. It's kind of become a meme, whereas in that team is kind of hard to deal with. But in general, everybody seems to use a broad range of teams that doesn't really clash over each other.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that is so interesting. Not a lot of overlap. But yeah, here in the States, we've also found Adachi Narukami to be a very strong team. Besides Yumi Adachi, I was saying that that's like a meta-defining team, and somebody say that's the best team, but there's also a school of thought that thinks Adachi U is also good. So funny that they both, that everybody's kind of come to that kind of thought as well. Okay. Well, a little bit of a broader question here. So, well, actually, before I get to that, I do want to ask Llon in his opinion. So, like, just barring any of like the Korean meta, but just like in his opinion, who are some of the best characters in BBTAG, and like who does he think are some of the best teams in BBTAG? He's mentioned Adachi U, but I'm wondering if there's like any others.
그러면 엘로님의 개인적인 입장으로는 현재 불불 태그 메타에서 가장 강한 캐릭터라면 누구를 꼽을 수 있을까요? 또는 팀?
일단은 캐릭터랑 팀을 둘 다 얘기하자면은 캐릭터 자체는 일단은 힐다를 저는 최정상으로 뽑고 싶고요. 팀 자체는 완벽도라고 치면은 아다치 나루카미가 일단은 제일 완벽도가 높은 팀이라고 할 수 있겠네요.
So if I were to segregate the topics, if I had to pick one character that's really high above the tier, would be Hilda. Just because of the strength of the character in comparison to many others. But if I had to form a team, two characters that kind of complete the meta would be Adachi and Narukami. I think they're the perfect match in the current meta of BBTAG.
Perfect. Okay, I want to talk about Hilda a bit later. I'm a bit surprised that he had that as the top pick. Okay. But before we kind of get deeper into the Hilda topic, because I have a ton of questions about Hilda, just kind of wrapping up like some of the North American segments. So he has studied North America. He studied it on the flight. It was that important. And he's gotten to play against a lot of North American players. And even in like the exhibition that happened, he mentioned that just through watching the players and like kind of constructing his own game plan, he felt pressure to kind of bring out his own style, like his main stuff that he would play in tournament to kind of contest against North America. Just through his research and studying, what are some of the main differences that he notices between North American BBTAG and the way he plays BBTAG? I will say Korean BBTAG because it sounds like there's a lot of kind of different things going on with South Korean players, but just the main differences between North American BBTAG and his style of BBTAG.
대회장에 오시기 위해서 비행기 안에서 이제 짧은 시간에 제한된 시간에 이렇게 영상으로만 북미 쪽 선수들을 좀 이제 연구하셔야 됐는데 이제 그런 경험을 하시면서 또는 이제 이전에도 많은 생각과 그런 연구를 하시면서 북미 쪽의 BB 태그 플레이 스타일은 국내에 비해서는 좀 뭐가 다르다라고 느낀 점이 있나요? 또는 그리고 원래는 기존의 질문이 한국 선수들의 플레이 스타일은 미국의 선수들과 비교하면 뭐가 다른가요라고 하기에는 아까 말씀해주신 한국 선수들이 다 각자 다른 팀을 구성하기 때문에 그러기에는 너무 광범위한 그런 질문이 될 것 같아서 그러면은 엘론님의 플레이 스타일과 미국 선수들의 플레이 스타일을 비교해 보자면 큰 다른 점이 뭐가 있을까요?
플레이 스타일을 얘기하자고 하면은 조금 어려울 것 같긴 한데 이게 저는 그 플레이 스타일을 지금 불불 태그에 나누자면은 일본이랑 딱 미국 스타일로 딱 나눌 수 있다고는 생각은 해요. 일단 근데 공통 분모가 일단 있긴 한데 대신 일본은 좀 더 굳히는 걸 좋아한다고 해야 되나? 좀 더 계속 가드시키면서 굳히는 걸 좋아하는데 대신 미국은 되게 이거를 제가 한국어로 어떻게 표현할지 모르겠는데 그 게임 시스템인데 이거를
네, 괜찮습니다.
바로 그 미국식이라고 저희가 일본 유저들이랑 저희가 표현한 게 있어요. 따로 공격을 일부러 끄는 다음에 그 크로스 콤보를 시작한 다음에 순식간에 정력을 바꿔버린 테크닉이 미국에서 많이 쓰이더라고요. 근데 일본에서는 이게 전혀 쓰이지 않거든요. 그래서 미국식이라고 불린 거고 거기서 조금 많이 차이가 나는 것 같아요. 일단 공통 분모는 같은데 그 굳히느냐 아니면 바로 바꾸느냐에서 그래서 국가 성향이 다 갈리는 것 같은 그런 느낌이 드네요.
Yeah, so like you said, the question can be very broad range because some of the unique play styles from different regions and character picks. But in my opinion, in the overall BB tag kind of universe per se, like I would say there are two very distinct playstyles that are apparent right now. It's the Japanese playstyle and the North American playstyle. So in my explanation, the Japanese playstyle, they always want to play stable and force a solid playstyle based on the defensive approach of keeping the characters safe, as well as not really going through much of a risky play style. And in comparison to that, what I noticed is that North American playstyle likes to force a mix-up that I wouldn't say it's the strongest meta, but it is definitely a style that is shown from many of the tournament plays I've experienced, as well as from the videos that I've seen. Seems like North American players likes to start the game when the mix-ups actually happen from the crossovers. These two styles are very distinct in their way because the mix-up style isn't really favored in Japan at all. So most of the Japanese players just call that specific mix-up playstyle as a terminology called the American style. It's become a terminology of its own. So I think these two are the kind of explanations that I could go by the current, regional differences.
Okay, that's a very interesting way of putting it. And I think in my own kind of thought process, I've also kind of thought similar things in terms of the kind of two different approaches to BBTAG. Because watching Japan matches, watching Elon's matches is definitely a kind of fresh coat of paint as opposed to what I play here. So glad that he's made that distinction as well. I guess leading off of that, since he's made the distinction, what does Llon think his play style is akin to? Is it more towards North American style, more towards Japanese style? Because personally, like, I do see more of a like defensive kind of approach, but Llon goes on the offensive sometimes as well when he gets those offensive situations going. So what's his thoughts there?
그러면 엘론님의 개인적인 플레이 성향은 일본 쪽을 더 선호하시나요? 아니면은 공격적인 플레이 스타일을 추구하실 때는 아예 미국 쪽 플레이 스타일을 더 선호하시나요?
저의 경우에는 제가 조금 특이하다고 말할 수 있어요. 제가 원래 다른 한국 선수들은 조금 일본 쪽 가까운 스타일이긴 한데 좀 굳혀서 일단은 한번 들어가면은 바로 그러니까 가드를 깨버리고 그냥 쳐부숴버리는 그런 스타일이 꽤 많은데 한국에서는. 그런데 저는 조금 미국의 좀 트리키한 그런 바로 정력을 바꾸거나 아니면 가드를 굳힐 생각을 별로 안 해요. 저는 자체를 그냥 한 번에 도박수를 건다는 그런 느낌이 강해가지고 저는 제 스타일을 얘기하자면은 일본 3, 아메리카 7이라고 전 얘기할 수 있을 것 같아요.
Yeah, so it's a interesting question because even for myself, I think my style is unique on its own. So if I were to give that kind of comparisons that, like I explained before in terms of the Japanese play style of being solid is they'll wait until the right moment and then find an opening to kind of get their opening gambit against the opponent. Whereas in the North American players, they will keep knocking on the door with endless mix-ups and then find those hard-to-blockables and then kind of open them up that way. So if I have to put a scale of 10, I think my style is Japan 3 and North America 7 in that kind of balance that I currently have in terms of my own gameplay.
I could see that. Yeah, as I was saying, there's kind of senses of both with Llon's play style. Watching Llon play BBTAG is such a interesting and also stressful thing because, like, it's I guess just from watching him play North American players and knowing like the damage output and some of like the situations that I've seen and I've been under, he just kind of interlaces, and I think his sense of positioning is very good. Like, he positions himself on the screen very well to kind of avoid dangerous situations and then turning negative situations into positive ones. So yeah, I think him finding himself kind of within that kind of in between on the spectrum, but a little bit favored towards NA makes sense. But he definitely has his own kind of like zoning and keep away style that I find super entertaining to watch. I want to talk a little bit more about characters. He's brought up Hilda. I'm going to grill him on Hilda very soon, but I actually want to talk about Neo first. So I've seen Llon recently talk a lot about Neopolitan and her strength. So Neo in North America is often regarded as a fairly weak character, like bottom 5, bottom 10. What does Llon feel makes Neo so strong, or potentially strong? Because he said that Neo is a character that has potential.
네, 엘로님이 최근에 이제 언급하셨던 그런 캐릭터 뭐 강단점에 대해서 이제 네폴리탄 캐릭터가 좀 언급이 되었는데요. 미국에서는 이제 그 캐릭터를 좀 이제 티어리스트에 굳이 꼽자면 거의 최하위권 또는 이제 하위에 머무는 캐릭터다라고 좀 평가가 받고 있는데, 엘로님께서 말씀하시는 이 캐릭터의 장단점과 또는 이제 뭐 잠재력이 있다고 말씀하신 적이 있는 것 같은데 그 이유는 무엇인가요?
사실 저도 니오폴리탄 자체를 처음에는 되게 낮게 보고 딱히 신경 쓸 필요가 없다라고 생각은 했었어요. 사실 중후반까지 아마 일본에서도 한국에서도 그랬던 것 같아요. 근데 요즘 재발견이 되고 있다고 해야 되나? 일부 일본 유저들이 니오를 하나하나 다시 발명하면서, 그러니까 패턴을 발명하면서 얘는 혼자서 가불도 만들 수 있고 원거리 견제도 충분하고 아니면은 뭐라 해야 되지 이거를 근접에서도 결코 꿀리지가 않더라고 연구를 지금 했더라고요. 혼자서 중단을 연속으로 넣다든가 아니면은 바로 순간이동을 해서 정력을 바꾼 다음에 다시 한번 또 정력을 바꾸는 테크닉이 또 발명이 됐다든가 아니면은 안전 점프도 그냥 쉽게 그냥 가능하더라고요. 그래서 지금 아직도 연구 중이긴 하되 좀 더 갈고 닦으면은 그래서 좀 더 발휘가 되지 않을까 하고 그런 생각이 지금 들고 있긴 해요. 단점이 있다고 하면은 혼자서는 조금 많이 힘든 거라든가 어시스트랑 데미지가 조금 낮다든가 어시스트가 조금 쓰기 힘들다든가 아니다 어시스트가 힘들다는 거 조금 취소하고요. 데미지가 낮다랑 혼자서 싸우기가 좀 힘들다 말고는 딱히 단점이 없는 것 같아요. 지금 제 생각으로는.
Yeah, so Neopolitan, even at the start of the meta, that I thought that I didn't really have to focus or concentrate too much about this character. But recently, some of the discoveries that's found in the Japanese community with the character is quite fascinating. It's not really up to par or polished yet. It's still kind of in the works right now in the labs. Um, so some of the mix-up patterns that she could do uniquely is that she could constantly do overheads without the need of assists, and some of the teleport mix-ups that she could do, like a double teleport into multiple mix-ups, as well as even that without requiring an assist. But that kind of comes as a double-edged sword on its own, because the damage output really isn't the best to be played solo. Although the mix-up potential is quite there, the effort that goes into doesn't really kind of feel rewarded because the damage output isn't that great. But that's what I mean. Like in a kind of a pinch situation where you kind of have to force your way out of a very dangerous situation, or if you're in a tournament match that's very important. Some of the mix-up games that she could play solo definitely has the potential, but it's just that she won't be perfect. But it's kind of something that if a certain player masters the character, could definitely pose a threat to other matchups.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Well, man, I am looking forward to seeing the kind of like evolution of that over time. It's such a beautiful thing, the game we play, BBTAG. There's still so much to kind of be discovered. And with Neo kind of developing in Japan and the addition of Rollback, thank you so much, Arxis. It's going to be interesting to kind of see the styles clash and seeing if Neo does evolve, because I would love to see it. Like I said, there's so much about this game that's still left to be discovered in this version. All right. I'm done playing around. We got to talk Hilda. So, like, just to, I'm not sure how much Elon knows about this, but to give some context, Hilda in North America is a very polarizing character. Like, there's some people that feel that she is pretty strong. There's other characters that feel she is like okay, but kind of falls off in like an offline setting. I don't need to ask him how he feels about Hilda's strength in BBTAG, because he's already said that he feels like that's the best character. So I guess I'm refining that question. I want to ask him why does he feel Hilda is the best?
이제 힐다라는 캐릭터에 대해서 말을 해볼 건데, 이제 북미 쪽에서는 이제 약간 힐다라는 캐릭터 자체가 워낙 고유적인 스타일을 보유하고 있다 보니까 약간 일상적인 캐릭터들과의 매치업을 생각하고 이렇게 대전을 벌이게 되면은 굉장히 뭐 어려움과 좀 이제 힘들다는 그런 평가가 많이 있습니다. 상대하기에는. 그런 반면 이제 본인께서는 아까도 말씀하셨다시피 이제 힐다가 굉장히 상위권에 위치하고 있는 캐릭터이자 좀 이제 좋은 평가를 가지고 좀 이제 미래가 밝다라고 하시는데, 그래도 뭐 딱히 이제 대회 설정 또는 이제 오프라인 설정에서는 미국에서는 약간 뭐 그렇게 뭐 센 것 같지는 않지만 또 그만큼 까다로운 캐릭터는 맞다라고는 평가를 하고 있어요. 그 어떤 이유에 힐다를 가장 이제 탑 티어에 뭐 위치하고 있다라고 생각하시는 건가요?
힐다는 일단은 제가 하나로 평하자면은 힐다는 만능이 맞아요. 힐다는 지금 일단 성능적인 면을 빼놓고 말하자면은 일단은 지금 탑 티어에 위치한 캐릭터들을 전부 다 우위로 시합을 가져갈 수 있고, 딱히 약하다고 지금 상성이 맞지 않는다고 생각하는 캐릭터는 지금 세토 말고는 딱히 없거든요. 일단 턴적이 별로 없고, 지금 탑 티어들을 전부 다 싸먹을 수 있는 그런 캐릭 성능이 일단은 제가 만능이라고 표현하기에 한 점이고요. 일단은 기본기 성능만이라고 해도 대공도 지금 3분의 2를 건널 만큼 되게 길고 모든 기본기들이 전부 다 길고 그리고 제가 대회에서 많이 썼었을 텐데 점프 C랑 어시스트 이게 순식간에 적의 뒤로 돌아가면서 역가드 상태를 만들고 샌드위치 상황까지 연출할 수 있는 그런 완벽한 연계라고 할 수 있거든요. 솔직히 말하면 지금 대회에서 이걸 파괴한 사람이 요 펩 스크럼 말고는 딱히 없었어요. 게다가 그 제로마저도 이걸 파괴하지 못했었고 이 순식간에 샌드위치를 만들 수 있고 게다가 원거리, 근거리까지 완벽한 이 캐릭터를 만능이라고 말고는 뭐라고 표현할 수 있을지 저는 모르겠네요. 역으로 저는 미국에서 이 캐릭터가 왜 오프에서는 대책이 된다, 왜 조금 약하다라고 표현되는지 저는 지금 이해를 하지 못할 정도라 가지고요. 네.
Yeah, so regarding Hilda, there's no other explanation to say that other than she's definitely an all-rounder and kind of do everything on her own, in my opinion. She's definitely, like, if you put her aligned with other uh, infamous top-tier characters of the game, she really doesn't have any struggles against a specific character at all, really, if you play her the right way. If I were to be a little specific, like her jump C and the assist kind of always puts the opponent in a sandwich position to give them a hard time. Like in my personal experience going around tournaments and other events, so far, I would say only Yofaf Scrub is the player that kind of can deal with it. I wouldn't say he like perfected it, but he's comfortable enough to deal with my mix-ups and the Hilda gameplay. And even the my rival, the finalist Zero Shadowblood, he even had a hard time against it. So when some of the North American players in the community says she falls off in an offline setting, to me that's quite a surprising opinion to show if how like near perfect the character is. So to counter that kind of question, that's my question back to the North American community. Why you guys think she's not as hard or difficult when it comes to an offline setting?
I mean, it's a valid question. I think so. We do have some Hildas in the North American scene that I don't know. It's been like kind of like a constant debate that's going on. But if there's one thing that I can say is that we do have access to watching Elon, and also Hilda definitely has some prominence in the Japanese scene as well. And just from watching, I can definitely tell that the Hilda playstyles that we have here in North America are not very similar to the Hilda playstyles that we see in Japan and through Elon. There are. I definitely agree. Like the jump C and the assist being pretty strong, like in terms of like the sandwich creation and like some of her other capabilities. But I honestly wouldn't be able to give the singular reason why that is the case. We do have some more offline events coming up. Some of like I know Frosty Fausting's Flowerman will be in attendance. That is a very like prominent Hilda player that we have in North America. But even his style of Hilda is completely different than like Elon's. And I guess that's the kind of question I'm throwing back at him, right? It's like, does he notice any differences between his style of Hilda and other Hildas?
그 본인의 힐더 플레이 스타일과 뭐 특히 미국의 선수 중에서 힐다를 구사하는 선수들과 다른 차이점이 확연하게 드러나는 게 있나요?
미국의 힐다 유저라고 하면은 제가 플라워맨이라는 유저 말고는 제가 솔직히 몰라가지고 제가 미국의 힐다 영상을 좀 많이 본 게 아니에요. 찾아도 별로 볼 수가 없고 일단 몇 개의 영상만 본 거라 갖고 이 질문에 대해서는 정확하게 답변할 수가 없을 것 같아요. 죄송합니다.
Yeah, so like you mentioned before, Flowerman is the only North American Hilda player that I could think of. And there's not really much of other Hilda players out there that I could use as a reference. So I really can't really answer the question accurately because even if I wanted to look out for some of the North American Hildas out there, try to find a comparison of that, I really didn't think of it because of the lack of material out there. So yeah.
Interesting. Is he familiar with Surumaiden from Japan?
일본의 그 선수 중에 스마이든이라는 선수는 아시나요?
일본 힐다는 전부 알죠. 그도 무조건 제가 알고 있고요.
Yes, I'm very familiar with this Hilda. Yes.
Okay. Does he think that his Hilda has any differences between like Japanese style Hilda?
그렇다면은 뭐 굳이 본인의 힐다와 일본의 힐다 플레이 경향과 비교하자면 본인이 좀 더 잘한다 또는 이거는 좀 더 연구해야겠다 이런 게 있나요?
좀 더 연구해야 되겠다는 일단은 별로 없을 것 같고요. 거의 제 스타일이 일본 스타일이랑 비슷하기 때문에 가감할 점은 지금 없는 것 같고, 근데 저보다 잘하는 힐다는 있는 것 같아요.
My playstyle is kind of aligned with how the current Japanese Hilda meta is right now. So, like if others were to try to find, some of the weaknesses or playstyles that they want to study against me, if you check on some of the popular Japanese Hilda players, it won't be much different. And in my opinion, I think there are a few Japanese Hilda players that are definitely better than I am.
All right. Interesting. Okay. I'm done grilling him about Hilda. This is good stuff. This is gonna definitely create a conversation. But okay. So I kind of want to jump over to his other character that he used to win CEO 2021, New V13. So New is kind of like on the other end here because Hilda seems to be like someone that he thinks of as like a very meta character. But I feel like he's committed to New V13 just out of love of the character. How strong does Llon think New is currently in BBTAG?
이제 힐다와 또 같이 파트너를 이루고 있는 뉴 캐릭터를 사용하시는데 그렇다면 뉴는 이제 또 현재 비비태그 메타에 의해서 좀 강한 캐릭터라고 평가하시나요? 아니면 어떤 의견을 갖고 계신가요?
제가 사용하고 있는 뉴 자체는 일단은 중간 정도라고 저는 생각은 해요. 대신 뉴도 일단은 그 탑 티어 몇 명들한테 대항할 수 있기 때문에 일단은 지금 제가 우승이 성립했던 것 같고요. 특히 유미한테 강한 부분이 되게 많아가지고 유미는 그 흔히 말하는 니가와에 되게 약한 편이기도 해가지고요. 근데 미국에는 그 유미가 되게 많으니까 조금 편했던 점도 있었고요. 그리고 그거 외에는 뉴가 강하다고 할 점이 별로 없을 것 같아요. 혼자서 남아있을 때 폭발력 자체는 되게 좋긴 해요. 그거 말고는 별로 없을 것 같아요.
I think New, in my opinion, is definitely borderline average. But some of the good side of her is that she definitely has some strategies that cover some of the popular characters that are currently out there. Even against some of the top tier characters. In an actual practice, like in CEO, I think that is the reason why I was able to get the victory. It wasn't easy, but the character meta definitely kind of helped against some of the top tiers out there. I think one example I could give is New is pretty decent against Yumi. And since North America has a lot of Yumi players, that kind of fell in line with my strategy there. Generally, I think Yumi struggles against zoning characters a lot. But then, not to say that New is perfect. Like New doesn't really have a big damage output solo either. So she's not definitely that strong solo. She definitely needs that cover. But in a tournament meta, kind of worked out really well. Partnered with Hilda.
Yes, I know you guys don't have access to my camera feed, but that has put a big smile on my face. I've been in conversation after watching Elon play at CEO. I've been in a conversation with a lot of people. At first, it was kind of a meme, but then I was kind of serious, of saying like, I think New like beats Yumi, like just the way that Elon plays, and some of the interactions I was noticing in terms of like New's zoning. Like it really seemed like that was like a legit counter, like a legit countermeasure to Yumi. So like as soon as I heard that, I just kind of started grinning from ear to ear. So I'm, happy to hear that that's like an actual, counter strategy that he had in his mind as well. Okay, it's kind of a question I'm penciling in here. So I think Elon's previous team that he went to before Hilda was in the game, because Hilda's a more recent character, was New and Vatista. He still plays it from time to time, but now it seems like New Hilda is his main go-to team. What made him make that switch? Is it more so of like Hilda being strong, or because he really likes Hilda?
네, 힐다라는 캐릭터가 비교적 이제 최근에 나온 캐릭터라서 이전에 힐다가 없었을 때는 이제 뉴와 바티스타를 많이 사용하셨는데 이제 힐다의 어떤 점을 보고 바로 뭐 변경을 하셨는지 아니면 변경을 하시는데 시간이 좀 걸리셨나요?
사실 뉴 바티스타라는 팀을 아직도 사용하고 있긴 해요. 그런데 잠시 질문이 다시 한번 뭐였죠?
네, 그 이제 힐다가 나온 후에 바로 바꿀
네.
경향이 뭐 의견이 있으셨는지 아니면은 힐다로 변경하는데 좀 시간이 걸리셨는지 또는 힐다로 변경한 이유.
사실 그 힐다로 변경한 이유 자체는 처음에는 성능이나 그런 걸 따로 보진 않았었어요. 사실 제가 그 언더나이트 인버스에서 사용하는 캐릭터가 힐다였기도 했고 단순히 그런 연유로 사용한 거였는데 뜨고 보니까 성능이 지금 장난이 아니고 탑 티어들한테도 지금 전부 이길 수 있는 그런 캐릭터여가지고 사실은 처음에도 뉴 바티스타를 주캐로 뉴 힐다를 부캐로 사용하려고 했던 게 지금 이렇게 뒤바뀐 것 같네요. 성능 때문에, 단순한 성능 때문에.
Yeah, so the only connection that I kind of switched to Hilda is that when I was playing Uni, Hilda was one of the characters that I really enjoyed playing. But then comparing some of the performances and how her gameplay kind of blends into BBTAG was definitely an eye opener. Surprising that she didn't really struggle against some of the top tier characters. And I just wanted to have New and Hilda composition as just as a side, like a sub team, because I wanted to continue. And even now, I continue to play New and Vatista. I practice that composition to this day. But because Hilda just naturally kind of worked really well, naturally just became my main right now. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't really because I found that she was strong. It was more of that, in another game in Uni, I just used her. That's the only reason, really.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, and I've noticed that he still picks the new Vatista from time to time, and a bunch of other side teams. I think he picked Akatsuki in tournament. He has like a Chie that he works with as well. So definitely well rounded. But if it had to identify the big three for Elon, it's definitely the new, the Hilda, and the Vatista. Awesome. Well, I just have a couple of wrap-up questions here. I mean, the big thing that was announced recently that I don't think any of us were expecting, but we're so beyond the moon for is Rollback. Rollback is coming to Blazblue Cross Tag Battle. It's already active for Blazblue Central Fiction. Thank you so much to Arc System Works for finally giving us that Rollback experience. But yeah, I mean, with Rollback coming to BBTAG, it's kind of an exciting time where the possibilities of people that we previously haven't been able to play against, having that opportunity. And in Elon's case, for having to do like this entire flight and experience to get to Florida to play against North America's strongest, having that direct access through Rollback now. But just out of curiosity, are there any players or regions that he's particularly looking forward to playing? I'm sure the answer is everybody, but just if there's anyone that he has in mind or any region that he has in mind that he wants to play more against.
이제 CEO 이제 대회장에서 이제 아크 시스템 워크에서 굉장히 선물같이 이제 BB태그에도 롤백 네코드를 선사하겠다고 그런 공지를 선언했었는데 굉장히 기쁜 일이고 이제 다른 이제 지역에서는 또 이제 항상 같이 하던 친구들과는 달리 또 새로운 선수들과 같이 그 매치업 경험을 할 수 있는 기회가 주어진 것 같아서 굉장히 긍정적이라고 보는데요. 이제 엘로님께서는 개인적으로 이렇게 롤백 레코드가 적용이 되면 딱히 특정 지역의 플레이어와 좀 더 이제 원활한 환경에서 해보고 싶다, 뭐 그런 의견이 있으셨나요?
그쵸. 저도 일단은 길티 기어 그 네코드를 경험함으로써 완전히 그냥 환상적이었거든요. 사실은 롤백 네코드라는 게 저는 딱히 체감이 안 됐었어요. 처음에는 이게 어떤 물건인지도 모르겠고 이게 정말 가능하면 정말 이게 될까? 이게 저 멀리 있는 사람들이랑 대전이 되는 건가? 싶었는데 제가 실제로 미국 쪽의 플레이어랑 좀 해봤었는데 이게 놀라울 정도로 잘 되더라고요. 그래서 이 롤백 레코드 도입 자체가 되게 불태그에 엄청난 원동력이 될 것 같기도 하고 다시 한번 불태가 부활할 수 있지 않을까 하는 그런 긍정적인 생각은 지금 갖고 있긴 해요.
그 특정 어떤 선수라던가 뭐 같이 좀 원래 기존 네코드에서는 좀 어렵게 그 환경이 잘 안 돼서 잘 못한 그 대전을 못한 선수가 있었는데 지금은 이 선수와는 꼭 해보고 싶다 이런 선수가 있었나요 혹시?
물론 그것도 있긴 한데 그게 주로 하고 싶은 선수는 역시 영원한 숙적이라고 할 수 있는 템페스트랑 다시 한번 해보고 싶지 않나. 사실 길티기어에서도 몇 번 해봤거든요. 잘 됐었고. 일단은 템페스트랑 좀 플레이를 해보고 싶네요, 지금은.
Yeah, so in terms of rollback netcode, like to be honest, I wasn't really that high end or technological persons out there, but I when I experienced how Guilty Gear Strive had this new thing going on that everybody's talking about, and I'm like, is this real life? Like, how is this possible? I was playing against players in United States, and I'm all the way in Korea, and it's definitely playable. And I was thinking, like, this is some next level stuff that's really, really interesting. And once Arxis kind of announced that it's gonna come to the Blazblue franchise as well, I was like, this might be like a new era. Like, it could even revive the whole BBTAG community once again. It's gonna kind of give a new kind of breath of fresh air as well. And it's very exciting for us BBTech players, and personally, I think maybe if I do get a chance, and if all things are really in good environment, I want to play against Tempest, since he's one of my rivals going through, as well as like I just want to reach out to many gamers in general when I get to play online.
Yeah, I mean, naturally. So I think that's what's so exciting about Rollback coming to BB Tag of just all these communities in isolation. I mean, Korea, Japan, Brazil, Argentina, East Coast, West Coast, Europe. Like, there's all these people playing BB Tag, and we get to watch them, but not really have a lot of opportunity to play them. So, really, like, his answer being like identifying Tempest, but also just like being able to play against the player base at large. I think it's completely understandable because that's what I'm looking forward to. I want to play against him though. I did not get a chance to play against Llon at CEO, so I hope to also play against him with rollback hits. But yeah, okay. So just kind of like the final question here, a little bit off from BB Tag. I know that he also played Melty Blood, Tapu Mina at CEO. Congratulations for getting second there.
어,
Yeah.
no, sorry, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. And I just want to ask if there's like any other games that he's interested in competing in like next year. So like he has Melty, is he interested in Persona 4 Arena, DNF Duel, any other games?
네, 이제 CEO에서 이제 BB 태그 우승 이외에도 이제 멜티블러드에서도 이제 준우승을 차지하셨는데요. 그렇다면 나중에 또 이렇게 오프라인 대회나 또 CEO를 방문하게 될 계기가 되시면 다른 그런 게임에도 참가하시거나 또 연습해 보실 의향이 있으신가요? 이제 새로 나오는 DNF 듀얼이라던가 또 이제 다시 재구성되는 뭐 퍼스나 4, U2 이런 게임들도.
물론 그것도 일단은 시야에 두고 있고요. 일단은 아까 얘기하셨던 DNF도 물론 지금 대회에 참가하고 싶고 아니면은 뭐 페르소나도 물론 참가하고 싶고요. 지금 가능한 게 있으면은 전부 다 참가하고 싶어요, 그냥.
Yeah, so my mindset is, if it's within reach, I'll definitely reach out for it. And as a fighting game player, it's always a good thing, a positive thing to try out everything and anything you can.
Absolutely.
As long as opportunities are given. All the games that's coming out, new and old, are definitely still worth playing and practicing. If I do get a chance to compete as CEO again next time, I'll try to have a broader kind of scope in terms of entering tournaments.
Makes sense. Yeah, because I forgot to mention, I also know that he's a very good Strive player with his Axel Low. So seeing him be able to branch out and play in the other games would be awesome. But as I said earlier, just watching Elon in general is just truly fantastic. Like, he is one of a kind player. And yeah, it's just really was something to kind of watch him take CEO. And yeah, I guess that kind of concludes it. That's all that I have. I just want to say thank you, Elon, again for joining me here today.
네, 이번에 인터뷰 참가해 주셔서 굉장히 감사드리고요. 또 이제 뭐 대회도 우승하셨고 많이 축하드립니다.
감사합니다. 혹시 마지막으로 한마디만 더 해도 될까요?
예, 이게 마지막 질문이어서 이제 감상평 한번 해주시면 됩니다. 소감.
네. 일단은 제가 여러분들한테 되게 신세를 지었어요. 특히 저를 코로나 검사에 도와준, 차를 빌려준 미국 플레이어도 있었고요. 저를 경기장에서 길을 잃지 않게 되게 도와준 플레이어도 되게 많았었어요. 그런 모든 미국 플레이어들한테 정말 감사하다고 저는 일단 말을 하고 싶고요. 일단은 정말로 제가 제일 감사하는 거는 저와 함께 ESL에서 인터넷 ESL 대회에서 같이 대련하고 같이 의견도 나눠주고 한 오카다 레인메이커와 다크네크로 선수한테 정말 감사하다고 말씀드리고 싶습니다.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great opportunity for me to, say thank you to some of the players, especially coming CEO. A lot of the North American players are very, very helpful and very generous to help me out with, getting through the COVID testing, and as well as it's a giant venue, and a lot of people help me not to get lost in such a big place. So I'm very grateful for that, for a friendly community that was able to show great hospitality, and I'm very, very pleased and thankful for that. I'll never forget the generosity that's shown to an international player like myself. And especially with this opportunity, I want to give a big shout out to the players Okada Rainmaker and Dark Necro, who's been helping me training for some of the online tournaments here and then. For ESL, I want to name. And yeah, it's a great kind of feeling to reach out to some of the regions that I don't have a native language to speak to. But this is also, thank you very much for this interview, Crackin Atkins, and I hope everybody plays BBTAG and have a great time.
I have the same sentiments exactly, Alan. I hope everyone plays BBTAG and has a great time as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you. Yeah. Big special thanks to BurnoutFighter as well. Without you, this would not be possible. Just kind of uniting the communities here and being able to talk to Alan. It's been awesome. I've been doing a lot of episodes this year, but this one definitely holds a special place in my heart personally, and I think for the community as well, being able to hear this. So definitely thank you, BurnoutFighter.
Yeah, my pleasure. I mean, I to be honest, I'm not a native, also anime fighting game player, but like Ellen mentioned, I don't really discriminate any fighting game, 2D, 3D anime, you can name it. I myself, as a fan of fighting games itself, the community and how positive it is in affecting, people's lives and livelihoods. So. Thank you for this opportunity as well. And of course, if there's any other communities who want to reach out to some of the Korean players, I'm always here to help. You can find me on BurnoutFighter in Twitter.
Awesome. I'll be sure to have that linked as well. Well, that's all I have. Thank you all for listening. I will see you all next year. This is my final episode of the year, and we're going off on a good note. Have a great holiday and a Happy New Year.